An award-winning journalist whose reporting rocked the world of journalism, Howard Stutz of the Nevada Independent is our guest this week on Nevada Week in Person.
Support for Nevada Week in Person is provided by Senator William H. Hernstat.
Welcome to Nevada Week in Person. I'm Amber Renee Dixon, a veteran gaming reporter. He's called Las Vegas home for nearly 4 decades. And in 2015, when a secret buyer bought the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the newspaper he worked for, he helped uncover the political force behind that purchase. Now a senior reporter with the Nevada Independent, Howard Stutz, thank you for joining us on Nevada Week in Person.
I'm honored. You asked me to be part of this show. Thank you, Amber.
And I think you are an obvious choice. Let's start with December 2015. Your employer, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, you find out you have a new owner, a new boss, essentially, who wants to remain anonymous.
Yeah, it was fascinating. It was like we have this whole company-wide meeting that's planned by the publisher at the time, and in the middle of it, he announces that we've been sold. Okay, we're all like sitting there looking at each other. Well, right before that, Jim Wright, who was my boss, he was the deputy editor of the RJ, he comes in. Myself and Jennifer Robeson are sitting. We just want to get close to the door and get out of there. You know, this whole publisher rah-rah session, and he says, "You two are gonna." Turns to me, just looks at us, says, "You two are going to write a 1A story about this meeting."
1A meaning
1A
front
meaning
page.
Front page story, and I'm like, I had an expletive that I won't say on air, but I said, "No, really? On this?" And he's like, "Do you have a notebook?" And that's when I knew Jim was serious. And I looked at and Jennifer just looks up and goes, "We've been sold, haven't we?" And went to this whole thing and said, they bring out this stooge, a guy named Michael Schroeder, who's like the representative of the buyers. They said buyers at the time, and we've been sold. And then Mike Hengel, our editor, asked, "Well, who owns us?" And he said, "You don't need to know the names of the owners. They just want you to do your jobs." Well, that was, as Mike described, it was like throwing raw meat to a bunch of lions, because we were gonna figure it out. I mean, we had an idea. It was the Adelson family, it was Sheldon Adon. He wanted to buy the Review-Journal. Before.
Casino magnate,
right,
Las Vegas Sands Corporation.
He had always a love-hate relationship with the reporters of the RJ, more of a hate relationship with me. He didn't like the way I covered the company sometimes. So it was, we knew, and we just did our work. It was myself, Jennifer Robeson, James DeHaven were the 3 main reporters on it. John L. Smith, the columnist, was working on it. Jim Wright, our deputy editor, and Mike Hengel, our editor, they turned us loose, said, "Go for it." And we did the digging that we needed to do to find out.
So they're the new owners, and they're not stepping in to say, "You can't report this"?
No, nobody stepped in and said, well, they probably didn't know we were going to.
Okay.
We just went ahead and did it, and I got the tip. We were following all these different leads. The real focus was on the Adelson family, and the point being, that was in December of 2015. In April of 2015, the Review-Journal, Stevens Media sold the Review-Journal to GateHouse. This is the company that owned the paper at the time of the sale. GateHouse paid $106 million to buy all of Stevens Media. This is the Review-Journal, which is the flagship, a whole bunch of small to mid-size weeklies and dailies throughout the U.S., about 50-something. But they paid $106 million for it. The morning after this announcement, GateHouse is a public company, so it's a material financial deal. They have to disclose it. The press release comes out and says they've sold the Review-Journal for $140 million. They bought the whole company for $106 million, then just sold the Review-Journal for $140 million. So whoever bought the RJ really wanted the RJ and grossly overpaid for the RJ, I would say at that time. And got a tip that it was, look at the son-in-law. Son-in-law. What the heck? And it turns out Sheldon Adelson's son-in-law, Patrick Dumont, who is married to Miriam Adelson's daughter, he's on the board of Sands. He works for Sands. We find out he handles all the Sands, the family's business dealings. And we put it all together, and I remember we had turned in the story to Mike Engel. He ran it up the flagpole, never heard a word back. And at 7:15 that night, he pushed the button and went public with it, and we were right, and that's where it went.
For those who may not understand, why was it a big deal that Sheldon Adelson had bought the newspaper? The biggest newspaper in Nevada.
Biggest newspaper in Nevada. We were the record for Nevada. I mean, we were the newspaper of record. He had a lot of dealings with the newspaper that he didn't like. He would deal with the different publishers. He would get angry about different stories, about our coverage on gaming and different topics. The family, Miriam Adelson, owned a newspaper in Israel Hayom. So they had this dealings, with newspapers. And this is a gentleman who is also the biggest donor to Republican candidates throughout the U.S. And now he's going to own the newspaper in Nevada. The RJ was more of a conservative, libertarian-leaning newspaper, and that changed. The editorial stance changed pretty heavily to much more hardcore conservative to fit the new owners.
You do think that there has been a change at the Review Journal?
No,
since...
yeah, it has been. I knew my career was over. I looking back now, 8 years. Yeah, I knew I was probably done. They really didn't get rid of me. I had to figure out a way to get rid of myself, I guess, at that point. Everybody that was involved is gone from there. Jai left, Jennifer left, James, however, he had a job, he was leaving anyway. Eric Hartley, who was involved with it. Jim left, Mike Engel left. So it was we knew it was a big changeover.
Because you were concerned that his ownership would influence
I tried
your
to give
coverage.
up I tried to give up the Sands beat. I'm covering gaming. I'm the gaming reporter for the biggest newspaper, the biggest gaming state in the U.S. I tried to give up the Sands beat as an idea. I'll pick up something else, alongside of it, and that didn't work. And it was just I was concerned going in. How am I going to report about any other company? When you're owned when the newspaper is owned by the owner of one of the bigger gaming companies on the Strip.
How is this different than like Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post, the Boston Red Sox owner buying the Boston Globe?
They didn't do it in secret. Jeff Bezos marched into the newsroom of the Washington Post when he bought it and said, "I want to make the Washington Post a great newspaper again." We never saw the Adelsons until even after we reported it. They came out with a statement. The night we broke the story that they bought the paper, they came out with a statement. We ran it separate from our story. We didn't include it in the story, but they came out with a statement saying that they bought the newspaper. It was very different. John Harrington buying the Boston Globe was very public about it, just as Bezos was. The fact that the Adelsons weren't very public, that said something about it to all of us.
Uncovering that story, the biggest accomplishment of your journalism career?
Probably the most high profile. I mean, there were other stories I wrote during my time at the RJ, now a lot more now with the Nevada Independent, but there were a lot of stories I was very proud of, but I guess nationally, we got a lot of attention. I mean, we ended up on CNN.
Yeah.
I've got that, being interviewed about it. We won a wonderful award, the Medill Award from Northwestern, and we all got to go back to Chicago and talk about it to the journalism students. It was supposed to be about a 45-minute session. We ended up sitting there for 90 minutes talking about it. It was fascinating. It was a lot of fun to do. So yeah, I guess I could say it is something that I always remember, and I'm very proud that I was involved with.
You would get back into journalism with CDC Gaming Reports, and then,
I was with CDC Gaming Reports about 2 years. It's a national newsletter that follows gaming. I worked on some things that I think I improved it. The people that Corey Roberts, the publisher, and everybody he's hired after me, I think they've built upon what I did and done a tremendous job with it. But John Ralston started the Nevada Independent in 2017 because of what happened with the RJ, and that we needed an independent voice here. It's modeled after the Texas Tribune. We're a nonprofit news organization. It started out with 6 people. Today, we have over 20 reporters. We've got reporting staff in Reno, Las Vegas, we're very proud of what we're doing. We're working with Vegas
With us
PBS
as
on the
well.
Democracy Project.
The growth of nonprofit journalism, what do you think about that?
It's fascinating because we're not beholden to, to advertisers. We're not beholden, but there are a lot of things we're not beholden to. It's donations, and we've done very well. John, our revenue team have done very, very well in building up, the independent. I mean, to the point, I started writing for him as a freelancer in 2019 while I was with CDC, and we would run those stories in CDC Gaming. Finally came aboard in 2021, which really, it was exciting to be able to be part of it. And I'm the oldest person on the staff. I'm very proud to say that. John had said, these kids are gonna learn from you. Well, I've learned from them. I've spent 4 days up in Carson City this year on the A's story with Jacob and Tabs and Sean, and it was fun to work with them and learn about what they're, how we do things. There's no print. We don't have to worry about print deadlines like you did in the newspaper. It's all online. It's very collaborative, and so it's very enjoyable. And I'm enjoying what I'm doing. It's very known as political coverage, known for the political coverage because of John, obviously. We needed gaming. That's why I'm happy to come aboard. And I'm now doing sports business with it.
And I noticed that you are doing a lot of national interviews about the A's potential relocation. I still say potential because I just don't feel comfortable saying it's going to happen. What is it like doing those interviews as a Dodgers fan?
Well, it's been fun. As a Dodgers fan, I mean, listen, I love my Dodgers, and maybe I'll get to see Ohtani play here if there's ever a stadium, if the stadium's built. One of the stories I was really proud I did last summer, Dave Calvert, our photographer up in Reno, he and I went to Oakland in August for like 2 games. They were playing the Rangers. It was, just talk to fans. And we saw the site where they originally thought the Oakland, at the Howard Terminal in the port, where we thought the A's were going to go. We thought the A's that's where they were going to build a stadium. Talked to a lot of fans. They were very passionate about it. They knew I was coming. They appreciated the fact that we were there to tell their side of the story. That they're hurt. It hurts for them to lose the team after 57 years. People, guy who I talked with who was there with his 12-year-old kid, because Max Scherzer was pitching that night, and for the Rangers, and he wanted his son to have what he had, to grow up with a baseball team to root for. Don't know if he's going to root for the Giants, So I'm happy we were able to do that story. We're planning on going back, hopefully for opening day this year or a few times in 2024 to see what it's like, what's going on out, as things move forward. But it is a fascinating story to tell.
Last question, your entry into journalism, why'd you get into it?
I got into it in college. I thought I was going to be a broadcaster, like you.
You very well could have been.
But I got into print, and I really liked writing. I've always enjoyed writing. And at San Diego State, as a very good journalism school, worked for the Daily Aztec, worked for the LA Times as an intern. Got this job when I graduated. I got this job in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Sun as a sports writer in 1982, covering a team called the Las Vegas Silvers. It was the Continental Basketball Association team. The biggest sport at the time was UNLV basketball, playing at the convention center. So I'm kind of come full circle now. I'm doing sports again.
I have so many questions I could ask you, but we've run out of time. Howard Stutz, the Nevada Independent, thank you for joining Nevada Week in person. For more interviews like this, go to vegaspbs.org/Nevada Week.